Mike Pachelli here. Thanks for tuning in. For this lesson, I'll be talking about the Beatles recording of Words of Love that they did in October of 1964. The song was written and recorded by Buddy Holly in 1957, and it was the first pop song to have the singer sing harmony with himself on a record. John and Paul started writing songs because of Buddy Holly, and as a matter of fact, the name The Beatles, of course, was inspired by Buddy Holly's band name The Crickets, where John Lennon, instead of spelling Beatles B-E-E, he spelled it B-E-A-T, so it had something to do with beat groups. And about Buddy Holly, Paul McCartney has said, Buddy Holly was completely different. He was out of Nashville, so that introduced us to the country music scene. I still like Buddy's vocal style and his writing. One of the main things about the Beatles is that we started out writing our own material. People these days take it for granted that you do, but nobody used to then. John and I started to write because of Buddy Holly. It was like, wow, he writes and is a musician. The Beatles performed the song regularly in their early live shows, and they even did it for a BBC radio program in 1963, so they were very, very familiar with the song. October 18th, 1964, they're at EMI Studio 2, and they do two versions of the song, and take two is the best, with the musicianship consisting of John Lennon on his Rickenbacker 325, George Harrison playing his Gretsch Tennessean, Paul on bass, and Ringo on drums. Fun facts to know and tell. During their live performances, Words of Love was sung by John and George, but for the record, it was sung by Paul and John, Paul on the high part and John on the low part. You can read various accounts where they say George is also singing, but A, the song is always in only two-part harmony, and B, George's precision of his lead guitar work on the song kind of hints that he was not singing on the record. You can also read some accounts saying that George played a 12-string guitar on the song, but if you listen very closely, whenever he hits a note on the G string, there's no octave, so indeed he was playing a 6-string guitar. The song was mixed on October 26th, and it was released in the UK on the Beatles for Sale album in December of '64, and in the USA on the Beatles 6 album in June of 1965. So that's the backstory. Let's get started. John Lennon is playing his little Rickenbacker rattle trap on Words of Love. I've got mine going through a Universal Audio aux for the lesson, and for the sound alike, I put it through my AC30. It's a very simple song, and it's really a good one for, beginner or intermediate guitar players who want to, hone their skills. But there's only 3 chords in the entire song. You play a D, and an E. Those are all the chords you need. But what you do is, for that A, you slide in, so you're kind of going from an A flat to an A. And on the D, you slide into the D from basically a D flat to a D. And John starts the song on the end of 4. So very slowly, you'd count 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's the intro. And the only difference is that, like on verse 1, he doesn't slide in. He starts right on the downbeat. But for the most part, except when there's stops, you always do that kind of A flat on the end of 4. And again, it's a really good one to play and try to keep perfect time. I suggest you take your metronome, put it around 124, and play it with a metronome and see if you can get through the entire song. So like, here's a metronome, and I'll do a verse. So a verse would be 2, 3, 4. And that's a verse. Thanks, Ringo. So again, nice and simple. Take it very slow if you're a beginner guitar player, but that's the entire song. Charts and tabs at mikepachelli.com will show you the exact when and where it happens, but that's everything you need to play the rhythm part, just like John Lennon on Words of Love. George George is playing his Gretsch Tennessean on Words of Love. This is a country classic, and for the lesson, I'm going through the Universal Audio aux. But for the sound alike, I actually used a 65 Vox Super Reverb Berkeley Twin because it sounded closer to the tone I was trying to get. Part's fairly simple, and George was more of an accomplished guitarist than Buddy Holly, so George plays kind of what Buddy Holly did, but a lot, more articulate, we should say. I mean, it's based on some simple things. So he plays like the fifth and root of an A down to the third and fifth of an A, like. And then messes around with a D and messes around with an E chord. So the intro is like this: 3, 4. Then he's into the verse. Now on the verse, he's playing, kind of the same chords, just basically A's, D's, and E's. And so when he slides into, he's always kind of hitting just an A note on one. It's kind of. And he does that for verse 2. It's just on the last measure of verse 2, he does a little pickup into the solo. So on the last verse, the last two measures, I should say, of verse 2, he goes, and that's kind of the pickup into the solo. Now for the solo, it's just really kind of, higher A root and third, down to the fifth and root, and back to the third and fifth. So, and then slide up from, like on the D, and then slide up from an E. And then he repeats that 3 times. So very slowly the solo is. And then he finishes it with. So anytime he plays a B, he starts playing a lot more B's, but that's when he introduces a B. So that part is. 2 B's. Then in the second part of the solo, instead of doing like and 1, he kind of just graces from that A flat to the A, like. So he's holding that F sharp. So again, that chordal part of the solo is. And he finishes it with. You hear unison E's there. Then the entire solo in time would be 1, 2. Then verse 3 and 4 are pretty identical to verse 1 and 2. Verse 3 and 4 are like. Except that he's hitting 2 B's instead of going to B to E. And that repeats on verse 4. And then only on the very ending, he changes it up. So after verse 4, there's the first two measures are like. So just like single notes. And such for the fade. If I went too fast, charts and tabs at MikePachelli.com will show you exactly what he did, make it a lot more clear than I can say it or play it, but that's George's part on Words of Love. Well, I put it together in a sound like so you can see how both guitar parts fit together, so please have a look at this.
Hold me close and tell me how you feel. Tell me love is real. Words of love you whisper soft and true. Darling, I love you. Let me hear you say the words I long to hear. Darling, when you're near. Words of love you whisper soft and true. Darling, I love you.
Well, there you saw very simple parts all coming together to make a very effective pop song. Good ideology to use in your own music. And I suggest you download the charts and tabs at MikePachelli.com, learn both parts, play along with my sound alike, and you'll get it just like the Beatles. And I really appreciate your consideration in supporting my work that way. So have fun playing this great old song, because that's what playing the guitar should be all about. I'm Mike Pachelli, and until next time, thanks for hanging out with me.